I'm in exactly the same page as Alex Ferguson. I want to knock them all off their perch. I mean, Alex was a very driven, very competitive individual. And, he just wanted to win, and that's the only reason we're there at United, I mean, we're friends in the sense that we're all in the Northwest, but they are the enemies, They're clearly our biggest rivals and competitors in the UK, and then obviously you've got 2 or 3 clubs in Europe. But no, absolutely. That's what we're there for, knocking them off their perch.
How far behind are you to them?
A long way behind them.
It's been 455 days since the Glazer family announced that they were targeting strategic alternatives, be it a sale, be it a minority sale of some of the stake of the club, or anything that could see other investors joining and helping build Manchester United. After 455 days, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's minority stake has been confirmed. Now, after his confirmation, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been speaking. It looks as if he was waiting for all the confirmation to be done before he could come out to say everything that he had to say concerning Manchester United. I have my guys here who will be going deep into all that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been saying with regards to the club, what his plans are, what his expectations are, and what he expects from the fans of the club. As usual, I'm joined by Kwame Intribuesiako, my co-host and my panelist. Kwame, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been speaking.
Finally, refreshingly, he's been speaking a lot.
He's been saying a lot, actually. I am amazed at the information he's putting out there. Quite refreshing.
Yeah. It's good to hear from an owner who sounds like he cares. For once.
For once, an owner who looks like he cares. All right. We are joined once again by Sicho, the man Sicho. He just came from the playing field. Yeah, I mean, he said today he didn't play as a striker. Sicho has a nickname. You call him Icardi. But this time around, he played as a defender. Sicho, how are you doing? It's great to have you back on the podcast.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, guys. Very happy to be here. Great to be back.
Great. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been speaking. He's been saying a lot of things concerning the environment and, Erik Ten Hag, the style of play. We'll be touching base on all of the things that he's been saying. We'll be delving deep into that. So we are going for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be reading specific quotes of some of the things that he's been saying, and then we will delve deep into all that he's been saying. We'll share the perspectives I'll hear the perspective of my guys here. And also we'll be wanting to hear from you from the comment section, and also remember to share as well, and then like, and also remember to hit the subscribe button. It's always important to us. Let's help build this community together. We are grateful for you, or to you, every single time joining us here on United and Everything Football Podcast. So we're going for a break. When we come back, we start with the quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe.
Yeah, that's why I say it's this is it's not a light, so it's not going to change tomorrow. People need, unfortunately, to give us a little bit of time to get back to where we should be.
What, next season?
No, it won't be next season. It'll be 2 to 3 seasons. I think that would be silly to say that by next season we'll be at the same level of Manchester. It took Pep a few years to get to where he got to in Manchester City. He's not been there 2 seasons. So it takes time and a bit of patience, and we need to walk to the right solutions, not run to the wrong solution. So just spending money lavishly in the summer is not the answer. There's a lot more. It's a lot more complicated than that. So we need to get all those details right.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome back to United and Everything Football Podcast. As I said in my intro, we are going straight into Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Now, he's been speaking. He spoke to the club media. He spoke to the BBC. We've had the opportunity of listening to all that he's been saying on these platforms. Now, one of the things that he said that, struck a lot of us has to do with the environment. I'll read his quotes quickly, then I'll start with Sicho on what he thinks about this. He said that we need to make sure the right people are in the right jobs. Every member of management needs to be world-class. Finally, we need to create a positive, supportive, friendly, quality environment. The culture was lacking before. Only in such an environment can you get the best out of athletes. If we can do that, the results will automatically follow, and that's the plan, and I believe it. Ticho, this is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's speaking about the environment, juxtaposing that to the culture he came to meet. Now, what's your thought on that? How has the Man United environment been over the last 11 years post Sir Alex Ferguson?
Well, yeah, I mean, quite clearly, the environment hasn't been one that has yielded results in modern football. Where when you walk into Manchester United, it's almost as if at the very top, it's looked like a mess, really, where you don't necessarily know who is in charge of what, and even if they've got what it takes to do the job that they've been assigned to do. And football has moved into a space where almost every single department is based on facts, science, and a lot of thinking. So it's become specialized sports where you can say that based on the knowledge you have in the game for a lot of years, you can be a sporting director and be a technical director, be a CEO, the head of marketing, everything. All of these things have been broken into subsections where aspects of that little wing take care of it. But what we've seen of Manchester United is that whereas the likes of City, Liverpool, even now Newcastle, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, the clubs who are in the at the same level with Manchester United have gone into, United have lacked. And that has created a very terrible environment at the club because now when managers come to the club, sometimes they don't know who to talk to. And sometimes they don't know who's taking these decisions. Sometimes they are left to take these decisions that maybe they shouldn't be taking. And in the end, it's created a very terrible environment where players come in, they suffer it, managers have suffered it, even some staff have also suffered it. So yeah, the environment in the last 11 years has just not been good. The structure, non-existent.
Non-existent. Kwame, that's Icho's view on the environment. I mean, for every organization to thrive, there should be that environment where people go in and feel very positive. We've had a lot of people come out of the United environment and make very, very interesting remarks. I can make mention of coaches. I can make mention of players. I can make mention of ex-management members. They go in there. I remember last season, Rio Ferdinand went in there. That was when Erik Ten Hag had come, and then there was this whole positive vibe, and he talked about the environment, about the coach changing a lot. But it looks as if it's not been the responsibility of just the coach, and generally the environment hasn't been good. What's your thoughts, Kwame?
United needed to evolve after Sir Alex Ferguson. We just didn't evolve. We simply did not evolve. What happened after Alex Ferguson was we tried to replicate everything that used to be how we used to be like under him, with Ed Woodward being the CEO, being the overall boss, trying to be a David Gale, having a manager like Sir Alex Ferguson to work with directly. Sir Jim Ratcliffe made mention of the fact that these changes pertain to modern football, where you have the CEO, you have a sporting director, you have recruitment team, you have the coach, the players all working together to make things work.
Yeah.
United did not modernize. we just got caught in time. And it took a long while before this club admitted that we needed to change. And when we did make those changes, unfortunately, we did not get the best in class to occupy the roles that we actually created to create that sort of environment. So it's about time. It's about time somebody walked in there and made us a modern club, made us the best club again by getting the best people around to be able to work, to be able to produce the best results. So yeah, it's just refreshing to hear. But then we are like, it's talk is talk, and then sometimes walking the walk is a whole different ball game altogether. So let's just see how it goes.
Let's just see how it goes. But Ticho, he also made mention of a very interesting subject, and you have been so strong on this subject about the style of play. I mean, a lot of people who follow you on social media, the X app at Ticho, have come at you a lot more times on you talking about the style of play and how Manchester United should be playing and all of that. And this is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said. He said that we will decide, when he was asked of the style of play, he said we will decide. It will be us, plus the CEO, the sporting director, and probably the recruitment guys, what the style of football is, and that will be the Manchester United style of football. And the coach will have to play that style. Now, there's been a lot of brouhaha. Who decides the style of play? Is it the technical director? Is it the coach? What we see at United is that every coach has come in and has, tried to implement his style. In some of our previous editions, Kwame cataloged a lot of the playing styles that we've been through over the period. Moyes came with his own reactive football. When we moved to a possessive football with Louis van Gaal, boring, keeping
boring
the
possessive
ball,
football.
boring possessive football. We moved to pragmatism with Jose Mourinho. We went to counter-attacking football with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The Gen person man also came for a brief period, and some kind of football. Then we are now under Ten Hag. We don't know how we are playing. He says we are playing, what's the name again, Kwame?
Transition
football.
Yeah.
It's a lot. This is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is saying, Sicho. Is it a step in the right direction? Is it in line with how the modern game should be run?
Yeah, it's in line with how the modern game should be run. I don't even want to term it modern, because in the last 2 decades, many clubs have done same. And as Kwame said, United didn't evolve post-Ferguson. And again, when you mention the managers that have been at the helm post-Ferguson, it quite clearly tells you the club had no style and plan of play. Because when you leave Ferguson to David Moyes, surely the style of play is very different. And when you leave David Moyes to Louis van Gaal, the style of play is very different. When you leave Louis van Gaal to Jose Mourinho, completely different. To Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, different. To Erik Ten Hag, different. So the club clearly has no plan and style of play. And that in itself doesn't aid in continuity. And the reason why that is crucial and that is important is that defining style of play doesn't guarantee success with a coach who can even play that style.
Yeah.
So even if you want to play like the Ajax team that Erik Ten Hag team played, it doesn't necessarily mean Erik Ten Hag will be successful at United.
Yeah.
But because the style of play will be consistent, what that means is that all the players that United are likely to scout and buy for that system and style, if Erik Ten Hag is not there today, the next manager who can play that style, when he walks through the door, have got good enough players to continue playing that style and maybe better it.
Yeah.
So when you look at David Moyes' signings, they were not a fit for Louis van Gaal's side. Louis van Gaal's signings were not a fit for Jose's side. And that is something that the club has struggled with. So they've paid a lot of money for Maguire, paid a lot of money for different other players, but they've not fit the manager that have come through because the styles are different. So for proper planning, if you have a style and an identity, you bring in players to fit it. And even if the manager changes hand and the next manager is going to fit into that style, the setup, the players, the way you train the academy players and everything will still fit together. And that is how you make the most of your sales, or you make the most of your purchase of players who come to the club. So yeah, for me, style, system, the principle and tradition of the club is fundamental.
It's very, very fundamental. But Sichu, let me get you before I come back to Kwame. What has been the Man United style, even under Ferguson? If you've been with the club for quite some time, growing up following United, what has been the style of Man United, and what should be the style going forward? The new minority owner is very clear on the fact that the club is going to have a style. What should be the Man United style?
Well, Sir Alex Ferguson had a style which in the end became the Man United style because he had been there for so long.
Yeah.
And Sir Alex Ferguson's style, even through Aberdeen, was very expansive, using wide players, especially wingers and their fullbacks, to attack with pace and good crosses into the box. So he always had good crosses, two strikers, if you like, 4-4-2 kind of football. Also great on the counter attack. But that team wasn't necessarily based on possession. It was rather based on transitions. But its transition had a lot more control. So United, can bait its opponent into its half, not necessarily by giving the ball to the opponent, but they can bait the opponent. So when you realize one of the teams that have been very, very consistent with back passes in history has been Man United, even under Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
But they had a way of, when they're attacking, they realize that the teams are sitting back. They had a way of passing the ball way back and restarting the attack to get players on. Then they could get in behind them.
Yeah.
They could mix it with long balls. So
Yeah.
Paul Scholes was brilliant. David Beckham was brilliant with that. They could mix it with the long pass and the long balls and then fly into the wingers and fullbacks. So that was very much Sir Alex Ferguson style. It was very expansive, very explosive, very fast. The tempo of the game was very high, right? But the game has changed. And what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do came with a lot of risk.
Yeah.
Now the risk is that you tend to lose the ball a lot more, so your opponents can also then have some possession. These days, the game has changed. You need to take better care of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You need to control the game more with possession.
Yeah.
But United can't afford to control games with possession and be maybe as slow as Barca were sometimes, even under Pep.
Yeah.
Or even now, Man City, even sometimes they win their game, but they are boring to watch at times.
Yeah.
So United would want to mix it. They can keep possession of the ball, they can control games, but still entertain fans, because that is generally the impression you get from United, entertainers. And I think that when these two, as Ratcliffe said, when the hierarchy sits and decide what brand of football should be played, entertaining football will be one of them. But it has to fit in the modern style of football, where you keep control of the ball, you're able to have a lot more possession and have control. And before I wrap it, when Erik Ten Hag was coming to Man United, one thing that excited the United fans was that finally they have a manager who, when they play against City and Liverpool, are not going to be sitting back to defend because his team can play.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've not seen enough of that under him.
Kwame, style of play. You have been so heavy on it for some time as well.
Yeah.
Is this the time?
You have to, when you want to look for direction, you have to look at the people that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are looking to appoint.
Yeah.
They're getting Omar Barada from City.
Yeah.
They are getting Dean Ashworth from Newcastle, but then he was former Brighton sporting director.
Yeah.
You look at the teams that they used to be at City, you see how City play. It's quite similar to how Brighton actually play. So I'm looking at those two appointments, and it sort of gives you a clue as to what style of play we may adopt. It doesn't have to be the United style of play, as many people put it. When people say the United style of play, they just refer to the 27 years under Sir Alex Ferguson. Manchester United is over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What was happening before then? We were not there to see it.
Yeah.
But then we sort of just refer to Ferguson's 27 years, the type of football we used to play, as the Manchester United way of play. But it doesn't have to necessarily be that way going forward. So I'm just looking at those couple of appointments. They sort of point into which direction, the kind of signings that we will make, and the kind of manager that they would want to be able to implement whatever idea or thought process that they have. Personally, I feel like Erik Ten Hag does fit that bill, because coming from Ajax, that's the style of play that they actually do play.
Yeah.
I just feel a lot of the players that we have in our current squad cannot implement that style of play. And if Ineos is going to make certain signings to fit the style of play that I've just described, I think he, as a manager, will be better off. But like they've said, they are creating an environment where the manager should be able to work better, get the best out of players. And if the manager is unable to do that or pull it off, it's quite easy to get rid of the manager and bring in a manager who can use the same set of players to implement the exact same style of football that they are looking for. So
yeah, that's it on the style of play. I mean, a lot of, for me, it was very refreshing. I mean, reading that, it gives you an idea of which direction. Many people wanted to hear that from the Glazer family. I mean, hear from them more often about where exactly was the direction of the club. But these people barely spoke to anybody within the club. So it left everything in the hands of the CEOs and all of that. Over 17 to 18 years. We only heard them when the botched European Super League thing came up and all of that. So it's refreshing hearing that from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But there is another controversial issue, and that has to do with Mason Greenwood. I know your views, but let me read the quotes and then let me hear from you guys on Mason Greenwood. Sir Jim Ratcliffe said that we will make a decision and we will justify it. He's a Manchester United footballer and we are in charge of football. So the answer is yes, we have to make a decision. It's quite clear that we have to make a decision. There is no decision that has been made. He's on loan, obviously, but he's not the only one. We've gone one or two footballers that we have to deal with, and we have to make a decision on that. Now, he said that the process you have to understand the facts and not the hype, and then try to come out with a fair decision on the basis of the values, which is basically he's a good guy or not. And the answer could he sincerely play for Manchester United? Well, or would he be comfortable with it? Or would the fans be comfortable with it? So these are the words of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's outlined a lot of things. Now, Ticho, let me get to you. A lot of moral apologists, a lot of people have made calls. I read the press release by the then chief executive officer, where he stated a lot of the things or the investigation that he had done, and still went ahead to make a decision that the gentleman cannot play for Manchester United in that particular season. What do you make of Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Is it the right things to say? Because already a lot of people have cancelled Mason Greenwood.
Listen, it's the most sensible thing to say, really is. And there's another part of the statement that for me, many people, we live in a society where people deserve chances. People deserve their second chance, you know. And he says something, again, if I want to read, he says, you are dealing with young people who have not always been brought up in the best circumstances, who have a lot of money, and they don't always have the guidance they should have. And that is what struck me. That is what really struck me. Mason Greenwood could live for the next 80 years. You cannot throw his future away because he made that one mistake that in the end looked like it's been rectified. Because the person that he really hurt is now his partner. They are parenting a kid. So for many people who are saying that they are speaking out for this lady who has been hurt, how about considering the fact that this same girl or lady is with this same man who has to take care of the lady and the family and the kids? So you've got to look at it from the humanity aspect. Of course, the audio out there is horrible, but it's a legal matter as well. And those who could have prosecuted him have dropped the charges and the case. So on legal score, the boy is free. On moral score, that still hangs over him. But it wasn't even proven at court that he did it. But from the sound of what we heard, everything has been pointing to the fact that he might have done it or allegedly did it. But you've got to also have to look at the humanity aspect of it. If this girl can forgive Mason Greenwood and months later go on and have a kid with Mason Greenwood, I don't understand how the rest of the world can give Mason Greenwood a second chance. And Jim Ratcliffe summed it up. Some of these young players, when they see a lot of this money and they've not been brought up under the right circumstances, it could, or guidance, some of these things can happen to them. It's now the responsibility of Man United to guide him. But what's the point? He can play football elsewhere, but he cannot play for Man United. Is Man United playing golf or rugby or tennis or cricket? It's still football. So if he can wear the jersey of another club, why can't he do the same with a club called Man United? And for me, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe attacked the question really well, and those answers were satisfying.
Very satisfactory from Sicho. Kwame, I'll leave a link below. We did a special feature on Mason Greenwood where Kwame did an extensive analysis on that. You can also revisit that if this is not exhaustive for you. But Kwame, let me hear you. You have been so big on Mason Greenwood. In fact, if there is one person who is monitoring Mason Greenwood in Spain every single game and reporting to us.
You probably would have gone to the court to move the issue, go to the court to go and.
I've watched every single Getafe game this season, every single one, including Copa del Rey games. It's almost like I never knew I could actually pay attention to any Spanish football game like this. I've never watched Barca or Madrid this much in my life. It's just because I felt from the beginning that there's been a sense of injustice when it comes to this whole thing. I don't think our then CEO, there's a reason why he's our then CEO, handled the matter well at all. He goofed.
Yeah.
He passed on responsibility for this very moment. That's just how I feel. Like he just postponed making a decision so that in case there is a takeover, somebody else has to deal with it. And that's exactly what's going to happen. There are people who would say they have cancelled Mason Greenwood based off the fact that there was this Stockholm syndrome where somebody may have been abused by somebody and yet remains with the person because the person holds so much power and authority over that person. So that's why people would probably still say this woman is still with this guy, because there's a psychological explanation for that. But put all that aside, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are here to make football decisions. And if they're going to make a football decision, there is no reason, like Sicho said, why he can play in an elite league against elite teams in another country, yet can't play for Manchester United. We are not the highest moral compass. We are not a referral point when it comes to making the biggest, best moral decisions. For us to say, Mason Greenwood is cancelled, but he can play for Barcelona or can play for Real Madrid. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't. Then there's the legal aspect. He's not guilty. He actually has not been found guilty of anything. So I think it just comes down to common sense at the end of the day. I'm just glad he did say that there was a decision to be made, not that a decision has already been made on his career. And to the very point that Sicho raised, that was the point. That was it. Where he referred to him as a young man. Young people make mistakes. Don't let us go into the life of Ryan Giggs, the life of Wayne Rooney, Shagginism. Don't let us not go into that. The drinking culture all the way back in the late 80s. See, these players with a lot of money make a lot of mistakes all the time. He should be forgiven for in case he did anything. We can't even say he did anything.
Yeah.
He should be forgiven and allowed to play football again for our club. I can't be watching Anthony every week. I can't be watching it. Doesn't make sense. And FFP, I don't know how far we can go with purchases. Like if you're going to purchase a winger, we need a lot of defenders. Our defenders can't stay fit to save their lives. We have to be really, really careful. So the homegrown quota kind of thing. He's a homegrown player of great value. I don't see why we should sell him to a rival club that we could be competing against in the Champions League, and then you punish us. No, bring him back home. Bring him back home.
Bring him back home. Bring him back home. That's what my guys are saying here. Bring Mason Greenwood back home. Guys, let's look at there were a couple of them. I mean, time won't allow us, but let's look at one key one, and that has to do with a man, Dan Ashworth. He'll be part of the people, if all things work out, he'll be part of the people making the decision on Mason Greenwood, the style of play and all of that. The director of football. We've been reporting a lot on what has been happening with Dan Ashworth over the last couple of days. As you know, Newcastle have accepted his resignation. They've placed him on gardening leave. Now United have to, make a decision on how they are going to proceed on getting the man. When Sir Jim Ratcliffe was asked, this is what he had to say about Dan Ashworth. He said, I think Dan Ashworth is a 10/10 sporting director, one of the best around, and he would be very good for Man United. It is understandable that somebody like Dan would see the challenge, or somebody like Dan would see the Manchester United job as a very interesting challenge at this stage of his career. Now, he continued that it is a bit silly, personally, from Newcastle with regards to their reaction. I won't get dragged into that. But what I do think completely, it's completely absurd. It's suggesting that a man who is really good at his job sits in his garden for 1.5 years. That's completely stupid. Sijo, you go into somebody's camp, you pluck one of its best employees who you rate as 10/10, and you don't think he should be angry that you are going to pluck one of his favorite people around?
Yeah, it's a matter of I think Newcastle are not doing anything wrong. If Man United wants the man they consider 10/10 and consider him the best in the business at the moment, they have to then pay it up, get him off his contract. And question is he worth around 200 million pounds?
20
that
million.
Has been mentioned around
20 million.
20 million pounds that is being quoted for him. If you consider him 10 over 10, then maybe he is worth it, because in the end, decisions that he's going to make could save you the close to 100 million that was paid for Anthony, for instance.
Yeah.
And maybe the 80 million that was paid for Harry Maguire. And maybe the purchase of Pogba into a team where it didn't look like the structures were right for him to thrive. Or the expense on Romelu Lukaku at the time he got to Man United.
Yeah.
So United then will have to consider it. The reason why he's that expensive is because he is as good as he claims he is.
Yeah.
So I don't blame Newcastle, though. I think Newcastle are really hurt that they're going to lose him. Newcastle also got a project going on.
Yeah.
They want to also build a style and identity, and they brought in the person they thought was the best man for the job.
Yeah.
Only for a bigger fish to come,
Coach. Yeah.
eating their small fish.
Yes.
Eating from their small pool, if you like. So that is the frustration for Newcastle. I don't think Newcastle are in the wrong. I think United will have to find a way of getting around the table to get him off his contract and get him to work.
Kwame, do you agree with Sicho on the fact that Newcastle are not wrong with the way they are dealing with the whole situation?
I agree with him partly. I agree with him partly. I think they are trying to send a message not just to Manchester United in how they want to be seen. They don't want to be seen as a big club. They don't want the likes of Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and Barcelona walking into Tyneside in the future and just plucking whatever that they like. They want to show the world that they have ambition.
Yeah.
So this is like the first time since the Saudis, the Arabs took over, that another big club has sort of come to pick something of value from them. So they just want to show the world that they're not going to be pushovers anymore. They should belong to the elite. On the other hand, they did go and pluck Ashworth from Brighton.
Brighton, yeah.
And they had to pay a reasonable fee for him to get him.
Yeah.
They cannot go way overboard for asking United to pay an absurd fee for a director of football. That just doesn't make sense. Nobody pays anything close to that amount for a director of football. Imagine because they also have to go and look for a director of football after Ashworth. You are setting a precedent that would just spiral out of control. The next club may also hold you to ransom. They should just come to a compromise at one point on a reasonable fee, somewhere close to £10 million. I think that should be reasonable enough. And then, for me, I think it's normal process. I think it's over-reported, over-dramatic, it happens. They're not happy. You have to go and sit with them, negotiate with them, and then you come to a compromise, and then man can go to work.
All right, okay, guys. We are hard pressed for time, so we'll end this episode here. I mean, in our subsequent episode, we'll look at some of the other key things that Sir Jim Ratcliffe talked about. So thank you all for watching us on United and Everything Football. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We are so grateful for your time. Thank you, Sicho. Thank you, Kwame. We'll be doing a part 2 of this podcast. Please watch out for it. The link will also be in the bio. All right, so we'll be talking about the game against Fulham and all of that in the next part of this. Thank you so much. Have a great time. We'll see you in the next part of this podcast. Have a great time.